Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today, it's time to reveal my final purchase of Blade Show, and in my opinion, the most exciting one. I won't keep you in suspense for too long because you've seen the title and thumbnail. I finally purchased a Machinewise Tottori, and man, has it been a long time coming, and man, do I love this thing. Similar to my Aeon, it has not left my desk since I got home from Blade Show, and I'm here to tell you all about it because I actually have a big history with this design. Not really in terms of owning it or flipping it, but in terms of criticizing it. I do have to give a big apology to the Ori platform, the Sasori and the Tottori, because I talked a big game when they first got revealed about how they didn't really have the Machinewise vibe to them. And while it certainly is a big departure from old Machinewise, I think the Tottori is one of their most solid feeling, well-crafted knives yet. Maybe not Opus V2 level, but for the price that you're paying for this thing, considering that it's much cheaper than an Opus V2, I can understand that. But this thing just has so many little features that were like, yeah, that was designed by a Balisong flipper or a company who really knows what they're doing with Balisong design in mind. Typical of what I would expect from Machinewise. But before we get into it, I should point out, just so that you guys are aware for bias purposes, Machinewise did give me a bit of an extra discount on this thing. So keep that in mind as my opinions go forward. I will try my best to be as objective as I reasonably can. But this channel is all about me sharing my personal opinions, so those personal opinions may be affected by that price drop. I don't think it will, but just so you're aware of it. Because this thing actually was discounted normally, and we'll talk about that in a second, but I did get a little bit extra off the top of that. So thank you to Machinewise for that. I do appreciate it. But the reason that I was able to buy this and the other knives at Blade Show, even though it wasn't the smartest financial decision that I have ever made, it was a decision that I was able to make because you guys do watch these videos, and I appreciate you for that. So the ad revenue that comes from this channel goes right back into me buying knives to make videos for you guys. In fact, my whole Blade Show trip, hotel, actually I didn't have to pay a hotel fee, but flights and tickets and all that was entirely paid by what I make over the course of a year on Blade Bias. So I really do appreciate you guys for that. I do not take it for granted. And I'm happy to have that level of support and not feel the need to set up a Patreon or take a bunch of affiliate links. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's super nice. So thank you guys for that. Your support is directly here as well as in all other aspects of this channel. So let's talk about the Tottori, shall we? Because this was one of 4 Balisongs that I went to Blade Show looking for, and it was the only one that I actually ended up purchasing. I said in the Aeon video that I was looking for 3. I said I was looking for the Peon, the Tottori, and the Kraken. There was a 4th in there, the Answer. I totally forgot about the Answer. But the Answer sold out instantly at Blade Show, so it kind of went off my list pretty quickly. And then they didn't have any normal Krakens at Blade Show, and I ended up getting the Aeon instead of the Peon, so we went 1 for 4 as far as things that I was looking for, but that's pretty good for Blade Show, especially for something as in demand as a Machinewise product. And this one was actually really special. There were a lot of beautiful Tottoris there, and I ultimately made the decision to go with the Aeon as my first purchase of Blade Show. But something kept eating at me. I just didn't feel right going home without a Tottori because I've been hyping myself up for so long that I would finally get one there. And for some reason, they were more expensive than I realized that they would be. And I don't say that like, oh, for some reason, Machinewise made them more expensive. I don't think they were ever much cheaper than $550 to $600, which the trainers were listed at $550, the live blades were listed at $600. I don't remember the prices actually ever being any lower than that, but for some reason I thought that they were. I was going in expecting to spend like $450 or $500 on a Tottori. Maybe the prices were that historically, but now they're a little bit higher. So this is a $600 knife, which is a lot, but I feel that you're getting what you pay for here because it's classic Machinewise quality. It feels solid in almost every single way. that it could. Like, the handles don't really flex. Like, I feel like this is going to hold up. It's not going to dull or chip or anything like that on me. So I would have been happy paying that. This specific one is special, though, because, there were a lot of beautiful Tottoris there. William is doing an incredible job on the Anno station over for the Machinewise booth, because there were a lot of them that caught my eye, and I almost went with a few of them. But ultimately, I missed out on a lot of those before I finally made the decision that, okay, it's gnawing at me enough, I can't go home without a Tottori, which I ultimately made that decision on Sunday. And by the time Sunday rolled around, it was a lot of the leftovers of the Tottoris. But this one stood out to me in so many different ways. This one I initially looked at because it's got this beautiful dark blue to it. But if you look real closely, and I don't think this is going to pick up on camera, but maybe it will, it's actually a splotchy Anno. So you'll see like raw titanium kind of poking through, like gray splotches. It reminds me of like storm clouds, even though storm clouds aren't deep dark blue, so I don't really know why I think that, but I saw it and I was like, wow, I love that storm cloud look. Again, don't know why, but this one was actually really cool. I talked to William about it, and this one, after I noticed the color, I noticed that it was also marked down $50 more than the other live blades were. And that's apparently because of that splotchy Anno. William told me that this dark blue that they chose, because it is so low voltage, I think he said, the Anno doesn't really stick to the titanium stick, quote unquote, as well as it should. So you get this kind of blotchy, splotchy Anno. And they said, okay, well, we'll just discount it a little bit for someone who might want it. Which is really interesting to me because you could just strip it and re-Anno it like I could, and then I'd have a full normal Tottori at like a blemish price. But anyway, the really cool thing about this Anno is that it changes as you touch it. So another thing that William told me is that as you get like oils and skin cells and all this stuff like on it, it will actually become more blotchy. You can see that I've kind of, maybe you can see, I hope that you can see. And I actually discovered this. This is my second take filming this video. I discovered that I could do this specifically in the first take of this video. But you can see that I've kind of rubbed away the Anno. And it's like, it's more gray than it was. But if I wipe away those oils, it goes right back to being that storm cloud kind of dark blue. And that is so freaking cool to me. This thing's Anno will change literally moment to moment as you flip it, depending on where your fingers have touched and how much they've rubbed and this and that. You will literally wipe away the blue on it. And it's so cool. And William also said that you can also have some situations where, the oils that you put on it will spread the blue out and make it more blue as opposed to more gray. So this thing has like a chameleon anodization going on that I can change at will with either skin oil or wiping it with like a cloth or a shirt or something. And I can influence how colorful it is in that way. Which, how did they discount this? That is like a selling point to me. That's something that makes me want to pick this over one of those beautiful, gorgeous, like spotless Annos. How could I not be interested in the Anno that I can literally wipe away in every sense of the word with either my finger or a shirt and change how it actually looks? It is one of the biggest reasons that I picked this specific one. It's one of the reasons that I love this specific one so much. And it feels so unique despite it being a Tottori and being the 279th one at that. All right, so you bought a Tottori, but how do you like it? Well, needless to say, I love it, because this thing, much like my Aeon, has not left my desk since I left Blade Show and since I got home. This thing is amazing. The one thing is that it is the scariest balisong in my collection. This is one of the sharpest knives I have ever handled, period. It is terrifying to flip, and I have to put my full attention into it every time, or else I'm going to end up with little paper cuts all over my fingers that you can see that I will not feel because of how sharp this thing is. But besides that, I probably should have employed Scott Ballyunk's dulling services that he was doing at Blade Show to get this thing a little bit more of a flipper's edge, but it remains a functional knife. And as far as EDC goes, I think the Tottori is a wonderful option for EDC. I don't know if it will top my Slift T, just because the Slift T is a channel titanium tank that can hold up to whatever I throw at it. And the Slift T has the ano on the inside of the handle, so when I drop it, it won't like chip the ano and mess with it. This will, although if I chip the ano, it kind of fits in with the theme of it being like not totally blue, but also not totally gray, so it'll kind of blend in. I don't know. All of that to say, I think it would be a good EDC. I think EDCing this would be really fun. It's a bit smaller than the other Machinewise knives, which is nice. It's scary sharp. The blade is really, really functional. It's elegant and it's beautiful, and there's some amazing machining lines on the bevel of it, as well as this little line that you can see in the tip here that doesn't go straight out. It kind of bows out and then spreads out the other way as well. So you have all of these round lines that really complement the curved tip here at the top. And then the whole blade also kind of points off to the right there. It's just, it's elegant, it's simple, it looks really nice. It reminds me of like some old weapon you would see in like old Japan. I don't know, something like that. I really like it. I think there's a lot to like here, including functionality. You have like the tip here, which you can use to, cut and slice, even kind of reverse because it is pointed that way. And then you have like another tip here that you can use to just cut tape on boxes. You can put it all the way in and then do it that way. I found it to be very, very functional, despite it not having like a standard tip that you would see on something like a Slift T or a Seraph or something like that. As for the other design elements, the handles here are really the star of the show, especially this no hole cutout surface texturing here, which is rough enough to provide you a lot of feedback and a lot of grip if you want it, but also not rough enough that it feels like you're just rubbing over sandpaper the whole time. I think it feels really, really nice. I enjoy kind of just rubbing it idly. I know Will has mentioned this for a few ballad songs, but this is one that I've really found myself, playing with my thumb or in my pocket or something like that, just feeling that texture. But one of the things that I didn't truly appreciate about the Tottori's texture until I had this thing in hand for a few days was the fact that it was specifically designed, it seems like at least, with grip in mind. Because usually when you have surface texturing like this, when you rub your hand on it, your finger will kind of get caught in the grooves and then slide off the balisong. Think about something like the Seraph, I guess. Where is my Seraph? I think it's in here. Yes, it is. So the Seraph, actually this isn't, I thought the Seraph was diagonal. I'm misremembering the Seraph, but either way, we'll just go with it here. When you rub your finger up the Seraph, your hand or your finger gets stuck in those grooves and it gets pushed to the edge of the handle. Excuse me, oh my gosh. But because the Tottori has this kind of wavy texture, there's really no point where your hand gets forced off of the handle. It kind of gets forced to the top or bottom of these wave textures, which means that not only does it have amazing up and down grip, but it actually has really competent side-to-side grip. Fans and reversing fans and things of that nature have an amazing feel to it because you have that extra layer of texturing to it, which means that your hands don't just fly off immediately once they get along those grooves. There is an insane amount of control to be had here with the Tottori, even despite the fact that it's got those, in my opinion, wonderfully round and thin handles. In fact, this thing, while looking quite rectangular from the bottom, doesn't really feel like it. I think the rounded surfaces go a long way to make this thing feel far more square than rectangular, because I don't really like those balisongs that are thinner than they are wide. But I do love these handles. As far as flipping goes, The best way that I can describe this to you is if the Corvus from LDY actually flipped a lot better than the Corvus does. The Corvus, a lot of you will know, is a balisong that I adore, fanning and choker fanning and things like that. But I don't really adore flipping on it in general. It kind of has a weird balance. It doesn't stick to your hand as much as I would like. This thing is the crack of fanning the Corvus, to put it for lack of a better term. It is the ecstasy of flipping and fanning the Corvus with the actual performance for rollovers to back it up. And it's not perfect. I do find myself missing a little tiny bit of momentum as time goes on, but that's why there's adjustable spacers down here. So you can either install the heavier ones from the factory or the lighter ones from the factory, or get them modded by a community member. There's handle extensions. There's handle regressions. There's so many things you can do. You can even run it with no spacers at all, but I think the flipping experience on that would be quite terrible. Regardless, it does everything that I want it to do. Because the faces of the handles are rounded, fans feel amazing, choker fans feel amazing, and because of that surface texturing, I have an amazing amount of control on the speed and direction of those fans and choker fans. But not only that, because you have this design, which has a lot of weight at the end of the handles, it is unbelievably competent at 0Gs and rollovers and chaplains, and I never feel like this thing is going to fly away from me. I mean, I do, but most of the time it's because it's a skill issue. I'm never really unconfident that this thing is going to do what I want it to do because of something weird in the balisong's design. It usually doesn't do what I don't want it to do because I'm telling it to do the wrong thing. I think that got lost in translation, but maybe you'll understand what I was trying to say. So overall, while I do think the Tottori is a bit on the pricey side, it's a $600 knife, and it does reflect that, but it's an expensive knife, and I don't think that everyone is going to love the flipping experience here. If you're someone who likes ladders and things like that, maybe the jimping won't be good enough for you. In fact, the jimping is probably my biggest complaint with this thing, just because it does feel very non-existent. Although the fact that it is sandwich means that you do get a bit of grip from just, the what am I looking for here? The sandwich itself. Also, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Did you see the color change? Watch this. Rub it with my finger, and it's silver. Right? It's like a gray, dull, weird, like kind of muted silver. Rub it with my shirt, and it goes right back to being that kind of like brilliant, deep blue, purpley color. It's so cool. How did they discount this anno? How did they think that someone wouldn't want this? I'm so happy I stumbled upon this thing, because I don't think that this thing was out all weekend. Maybe it was, and it was just overshadowed by all the really fancy ones. But it's so cool. I'm so happy to finally own a Tottori, and I'm so happy that it's this one of all Tottoris, because this one just is so unique. And probably yet another... I'm not going to say it's a forever balisong, but it's definitely a balisong that I'm going to have a lot of trouble getting rid of if that time ever comes. So, I think I've rambled about this thing enough. I will be making future videos on the Tottori, it being Machinewise's kind of main design right now and all. Maybe I'll try some channel extensions or the heavier spacers or things like that. But this is just kind of like the Tottori. What do I think about the live blade Tottori? I think it's better than the trainer version. I definitely recommend you pick up a live blade if you're looking at a Tottori. And I think it's an amazing design. There's just so many little details, like the texturing and the way that the blade is, and it was clearly made by people who know what they're doing, who care about flipping, and I've got that little extra touch on top because I've got the chameleon one. I love it so much. So, yeah, really competent balisong, does everything that I want it to do, And the only thing that could make this one better is if it was a false lie blade, so that I could actually flip it with a little bit more confidence, because let me tell you, the edge on this thing is scary, wicked sharp. So I'll probably have to wait for that to dull down as I use it a little bit. But until then, that's been the Tottori, my final Blade Show purchase, and probably one of the last Blade Show related videos. There will be, actually I think there will be 2 more. So stay tuned for those, and I'll see you in the next one. Later.